a time, a long time ago, my daddy was just a little tot. He lived on that old street called Marigold. Being the youngest of the bunch, there were 7 in all, and having little golden curls, he was endearingly called Jeannie Boy. The girl next door was his favorite playmate, but unlike Jeannie Boy, little Nancy Ward Williams was an only child. As in all good families back in those days, Mrs. Gerganis and Mrs. Williams were both like protective mother hens over both of their little ones. One bright and sunny summer day, Mrs. Gerganis left Jeannie Boy in the watch care of his older sister, who was nigh to grown up at the tender age of 16. Mrs. Gerganis left the house at dawn to shop the day away in the big city. Jeannie Boy ran out in the backyard to play with Nancy Ward. Sister was busy doing the laundry, but she could clearly see from her window view that the 2 playmates were playing happily in the confines of the backyard. Jeannie Boy was driving his toy truck around the dirt path, pretending to deliver groceries just like his daddy. Nancy Ward was jumping and chanting her little jump rope song. Down in the valley where the green grass grows, there sat Nancy, sweet as a rose. Along came Jeannie and kissed her on the cheek. How many kisses did you get this week? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jeannie Boy looked up and saw that Nancy Ward had stopped jumping and was swinging her rope round and round. Stop that, Nancy Ward! You is going to hit me, said he. 8, said she. Jeannie Boy jumped up. Thwack! She conked him right upside the head with the handle of that old jumping rope. With his little round face reddening up, he grabbed little Nancy Ward by her arm. Then with all his might, he clamped down on her soft, sweet skin with his set of pearly white baby teeth. Mrs. Williams opened up the screen door and poked her head out to see Nancy Ward squalling on the stoop steps and Jeannie Boy bawling and running toward his house. Get on in here, little one. What happened? Said Mrs. Williams. Jeannie Boy hit me, Nancy Ward said, poking out her arm to show a bright red set of tiny teeth marks imprinted thereupon. Mrs. Williams set her in the kitchen chair and ran cold water over a cloth, squeezed it tight, and laid it on the bite while wiping her tears away. As she wiped her daughter's tears, anger was creeping up hotter and hotter into her heart. She left little Nancy Ward in her chair and marched out the back door and across the yard. Standing at the Gerganis' back door, she said in a stiff voice, Jeannie Boy, come on out here and see Mrs. Williams. When he appeared with a cookie in each hand, she took him firmly by the arm and marched him straight back across the yard back into her own house to the scene in her kitchen. There sat Nancy Ward with a tear-stained face on the kitchen chair holding the wet cloth on her arm. Jeannie Boy, did you bite my little girl? With his bottom lip protruding into a pout and a tear rolling down his cheek, he said, She hit me first, conked me upside my head with her jump rope. It hurt bad. Said she, and your mama out and about, not here to see that you behave yourself. I'll just be needing to teach you a lesson myself. Just come on over here close to Mrs. Williams, she said. He reluctantly obeyed. He knew better than to not do so. Now give me your arm, little fella. She didn't wait for his obedience as he was in reach. Then she clamped down with her teeth on his little plump arm. He yelped out in pain, and she released it and said, You won't be biting my little girl ever again, will ya? Now go home, and you better have learned your lesson. No biting. Ya hear? The sun had set, and Sister had washed and tucked Jeannie Boy under the covers and smoothed his curls and hummed soft lullabies to him till he was sound asleep. The clock on the mantel was ticking, and Mr. Gerganis was nodding in his big, overstuffed chair with a newspaper folded across his lap. The hour was late when Mrs. Gerganis arrived home from her day trip. How was Jeannie Boy today? She asked Sister. He ate a good lunch and played with Nancy Ward all afternoon, but what? Mrs. Williams bit Jeannie Boy, Sister stammered as she spilled out the whole tale. Mrs. Gerganis was hotter than a kettle of boiling water. I don't care the hour of the night. I'm headed over there right now to give Mrs. Williams a piece of my mind. With that, she took a deep breath and calmed herself, remembering that she needed to act Christian-like. I'm going to let my ire simmer overnight, and by morning, I hope I'll be cool enough to deal with this in a decent fashion. After all, she is my neighbor and my friend. She checked in on Jeanie Boy sleeping and rubbed the red bite on his arm softly and prayed silently for the Lord to help her to be angry and sin not. As always, time helps cool down the fire, and when morning came, Mrs. Gerganus marched across the backyard and tapped on the back door at the Williams house and politely said, "Good morning, Mrs. Williams. May I come in?" Epilogue. The years went round and round. The lives of the tots who were playmates on that street called Marigold went in different directions. They were worlds apart. Then one day they met again. Some 78 years after Nancy Ward was chanting her jump rope rhymes that Jeanie was kissing her on the cheek, he did. Jean married Nancy on January 8, 2012. For their engagement party, I made their Jeanie Boy Love Nancy Ward banner, strung on a jump rope, of course. And for the getaway car after the wedding, the trunk had tin cans dragging on the road to make an old-fashioned racket, tied to the bumper with, you guessed it, jump ropes.